Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're tackling something I like to call a silent thief. It's this force that's constantly at work in the background of our lives inflation. It's steadily reaching right into your wallet and quietly stealing your purchasing power day after day after day. But look, we aren't here to panic, we're here to take control. We're going to break down the timeless, actionable strategies of one of the greatest financial minds in history. And the goal? Not just to survive a turbulent economy, but to absolutely thrive in it.
But first, let's put all the grand economic theories on pause for a second and just think about you right now. Are you feeling kind of tangled in your expenses? Because as we hear all this constant chatter heading toward another potential recession, it's genuinely getting harder and harder to make ends meet. I mean, it feels like every time you go to the grocery store or pay a utility bill, the numbers creep up. But your paycheck? Yeah, that stays stubbornly exactly the same. You're probably looking for a real way to build a stable financial future without taking on some massive mountain of debt or completely sacrificing your quality of life. Well, that brings us to our ultimate mentor for this explainer, $103 billion. That is the staggering net worth of American business magnate Warren Buffett. And why exactly are we turning to him? Because Buffett has lived through and successfully navigated decades of inflation. He's literally seen these economic cycles play out time and time again over his investing career. He's made the mistakes, he's learned the hard lessons, and he's built a playbook so that we don't have to start from scratch. Okay, let's dive into this. We've got a really clear roadmap for our journey today. First up, we're going to unpack the threat of inflation. Then, number 2, assets you should avoid. 3, picking the right stocks. 4, low-cost business ideas. And finally, number 5, investing in yourself. All right, let's kick things off with part 1, the threat of inflation. So Buffett warns us that inflation is a thief we just simply cannot underestimate. The core problem here is that inflation and purchasing power are inversely proportional. Basically, as prices rise, the actual real-world value of your money lowers. Let's just look at the math for a second. When you invest, your money is supposed to work for you around the clock, right? Let's say you're super pumped because you're getting a seemingly fantastic 10% return on an investment. But if the inflation rate rises to 8%, well, you have to subtract that from your gains. So your real, actual return is only 2%. Your money is working incredibly hard just to barely tread water. And this brings us to a really harsh reality about so-called safe investments. People often flock to interest rate bonds thinking, okay, I'm protecting my money. But Buffett points out that even a 5% bond interest will completely disappear when inflation hits 6%. In fact, if you look at recent inflation reports, holding these interest rate bonds actually yielded an annual return of around negative 2.2%. You are literally losing money by playing it completely safe. Crazy, right? Which leads us right into part 2, assets you should avoid. When times get hard and inflation spikes, families and investors usually panic and flock to what they perceive as safe havens. And the most famous of these, gold. We've seen its price surge massively in recent years, jumping all the way from $460 to over $1,800 an ounce. Now, the public views this as a super safe, productive asset to weather the storm. But Buffett, he completely disagrees. To him, gold is an unproductive asset. It has zero utility. It doesn't actually produce anything on its own. Plus, you can't generate a quick profit from it. It generally needs at least 24 to 30 months just to start working for you. And the most glaring fact of all, the quality remains totally constant. 1 ounce of gold today is going to be exactly 1 ounce of gold 10 years from now. It never inherently grows. So, if unproductive assets are out, where does Buffett put his money? Part 3, picking the right stocks. Buffett's preferred assets are stocks. But listen, you shouldn't just buy a ticker symbol just because it's trending on social media. You have to analyze a stock as if you were buying the entire local shop down the street. You wouldn't buy a shop without looking at its sales capacity and competitive power, right? When you're analyzing that shop, the absolute most essential thing to look for is flexible pricing power. Look at companies like Apple or Coca-Cola. They have incredibly loyal customer bases, and this allows them to seamlessly increase their prices to balance out high inflation costs. They do it without losing their customers. People are still going to buy their iPhones. Now contrast that with companies that just act as inflation expectation drivers. Companies like Kroger, CVS, and TJX. They made massive profits during the pandemic by boosting prices based on public expectations. But temporary crisis profits don't always equal long-term resilience. You want that deep loyalty of a flexible pricer. Which leads us to this legendary piece of advice. Be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. This is all about patience. Owning a stock just because it's famous right now is a terrible idea. Take your time, stay relaxed, and observe. So, the crucial point here is Buffett's golden rule of time. He says you should only choose to buy a stock if you are completely willing to hold it for 10 years. Basically, if you wouldn't hold it for a decade, don't hold it for a minute. Now, passive investing is incredibly powerful, for sure. What about active income? Let's move to part 4, low-cost business ideas. The absolute biggest barrier for aspiring entrepreneurs today is the super high capital cost required to start a business. To beat inflation, we don't necessarily need to work harder, we need to work smarter. You don't need a massive bank loan to turn your brain into a cash flowing asset. Selling digital courses is huge. Like, if you know Instagram marketing, you can build a course once, update it occasionally, and just sell it infinitely. Or content creation, graphic design, copywriting. These require zero physical inventory. Your talent is what attracts the brands. Developing software-based solutions require a one-time build cost, but it can yield huge recurring returns. And even something like event planning lets you leverage your organizational skills with very little upfront investment. You're basically building businesses that allow your existing skills to define you. And that brings us to our 5th and final step, investing in yourself. Because whether you are a baker, a doctor, an engineer, or you're running a startup right from your kitchen table, you are the ultimate asset. Think about this deeply powerful dynamic for a second. Cost of your past education, your training, the late nights you spent mastering your craft. That was all paid for in old, cheaper dollars. But because you hold that knowledge inside you right now, you get to provide your services and charge for your talents in today's inflation-adjusted dollars. Your intrinsic value naturally scales with the economy. It's kind of brilliant. But to maximize this, you have to take continuous action. Inflation brings really tough economic competition, so you gotta stay up to date. Step 1, consistently learn new skills and take new courses. Step 2, figure out what you are genuinely passionate about and push yourself to excel at it. Give it 100%. Step 3, understand and actively use new technologies. By relentlessly upgrading your own mental software, you make yourself completely irreplaceable, no matter what the market is doing out there. So Warren Buffett's strategies, they don't just help you fight inflation, they are literally guidelines to architect a stronger, more resilient life. We don't know how high inflation is going to go or when the next big economic shift is going to hit. It's entirely unpredictable. But what you can control is your own readiness. So I'm going to leave you with this to reflect on. Are your skills ready for tomorrow's dollars? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. And hey, keep investing in your greatest asset, you.